A bunch of people had roles with the World Trade Center attack from Connecticut. That's one thing. Also, in other words, discern trade in the world there, in the word there, and world trade. In other words, left out too, where our founders communicated about that and about the breaching method, which is a scientific value in their communications, which doesn't leave out what they communicated, what they declassified about what they said, and about the breaching method that was measuring and maintaining what they said and what everyone said, not collusions with itself against everyone else, to an extent at least. Otherwise, that body was discerned, sensed for itself, even if it was a majority of people, even if it was everyone. Had slavery entrenched northern colonies, southern colonies, in a sick method against everyone, rolls with it, or they were sensed. Again, even if they're a majority of people, even if they were everyone, and that was accounted for. Not just all the Native Americans, even if they got together, not just all the colonists, even if they got together, because they were different colonies. There were more than 13 colonies. Our founders had to pick key places and people to counter, extort, and force to break the international group method to all locations, sickly distinctly, but also sickly non distinctly, and everyone was incapable of being the quality fact sheet, reporting it to be, to deal with how sickly non distinctly, even though it was against everyone, because that would also be sense. Black people. So Fox News has rules with people named Perone and Kerr, and a whole bunch of people tied to them, like with the officer Jerry Miller. Further, and they're educators, including especially if they're military or what they are. A Mike Kerr has roles with a whole bunch of people with the name Perone and tied to them, like with a Mark Violet, involved with foreign and involved with a former Mayor Gold's family, involved with medical and sexual offenders of kids, and people who planted evidences in my sixth grade class, involved with Russians, increasingly involved with child offenders, leaders of kids. Has something to do with the Russians at Hartford Hospital, too, where they've been roles with all these different countries and forging and switching names and fabricating conversations, fabricating transcripts. I went there one day, 3 days. They forced me there. But I forced people to call the police. I didn't tell them why. Rather than communicate with me, they put fake words in my mouth. They knew I caught them with a Kevin Dillon and with a whole bunch of people tied to them at the Wethersfield Community Center, which is demonstrated because they had them there, and they were the ones I caught. One of them wasn't. Only one of them was a Kevin Dillon. Before I raised my voice and forced people to call the police, I recorded him non-verbally recording, demonstrated, confirmed. He was planting evidences on the sides of my house, rolls with people who did that in the past too. They had wire crime, mail crimes with people from other countries, overt criminal enterprises, and private ones. They have roles with differences, racketeering, with the family members of judges and prosecutors, overt criminal enterprises, and private ones at the same time. They have had roles with this at a long time. The overt criminal enterprises, private ones run into high life progressions at the same time. Even the family member said that he has a family member, a sister. Some guy said he has a sister who works for one of those telephone lines where you call up to if you're going to commit suicide. And I never called those places. You know, this people has these people have been putting fake things on a mass scale. All the kinds of different judges and their family members are personally involved with a whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital's Institute of Living, with the lawyers and the professors and all kinds of scams there. And I don't know all their names, but they're people involved with the Parks and Recreation and the Wethersfield town offices through time, and probation courts and probation officers are involved with murders and untimely deaths that brought up the principal child abusers campus to me, and a pattern of people from other areas like a Robert Rodriguez, also involved with a whole bunch of people involved with Kevin Dillon, and people that have like an Omni place and there's an apartment next to it, and like little church themed places involved with the intelligence community, foreign and domestic, and whiting forensics increasingly involved. And in Sandy Hook prison has people with the name Cintron from other countries with a police chief Cintron, increasingly involved with the Omni place in their confessions, and a guy who Paul Spadafora fought. I fought Paul Spadafora right before he turned professional, I believe, but it was at Ohio State Fair in the finals of the Ohio State Fair. Paul Spadafora went on to become, I believe, an IBF lightweight world champion. I fought him at 130 pounds. It was my 10th fight in Ohio State Fair in Ohio. The next year, I think I took that fight down. I could put it back up. I have a fight for the next year. I don't have a lot of my fights on recorded. I would have been better if I had looked at myself on recording. Shadow boxing into the video camera is the new thing, boxing. Shadow box towards the YouTube camera and then look at yourself. I guarantee you, especially if you do it every round. If you do it and then look at it and then do it again, every round you're gonna get better. Because you go like this, and then you're doing this to your camera, go a little bit slower. It just doesn't look. It looks so much slower. You have to really go fast in front of the camera. In other words, that's why a world champion told me one time, look in the mirror, use the mirror. In another language, in other words. But I even had a translator. In other words. I was in the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center. And a whole bunch of people from Wethersfield, interbranch, intercities, and intra-cities that had been roles with predicate acts with facts at each of the campuses I went to with people from off the campuses. And they're recorded consciously lying about why and how I'm using other people's names, influenced by them because their roles with intelligence community, originally still at all locations, areas, and states, raised criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought, collusions self-valued with replacing what James Madison and our founders communicated about the breaching method as a subject in their communications that does not leave out what they declassified and what nature itself does. So, but we have people that were forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded to defend Marbury versus Madison. Readings anyways, readings of statutes of precedent difference anyway, relativity anyway, as the breaching method knew they would. Exactly the way that it shows them and shows them how to read the law, how to read the nature of the law. Not properly unabridged, not properly why and how there's a statute that there's an amendment that says we have rights that are too numerous to have to list them. And you guys are using time as a weapon, criminally foreign influence, all kinds of scams behind it. You're just making more people criminally involved with you guys. Then you have to make all kinds of waste, all kinds of money when I speak, trying to figure out how you're going to cut up lie progressions. Why don't you just get the curse on paper and the other people I don't know the names of? There's a Wally, and it's through the sale of the thing with the people from Pakistan. And our side's rules, the difference of that too. They're involved with Saudis. They brought into it with a Tony DeMoro and Joe DeMoros and people with the town line there involved with the Kerr family, and I forgot his name. Dominic Abate is also with people all along Route 3, involved with a whole bunch of different countries in our own, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, with the people on my street, with the name Cololo, involved with the police, forging and switching names, and involved at Hartford Hospital with a whole bunch of people with the Dillon family at the Connecticut at the Weathersfield Community Center has something to do with all kinds of organized crimes with people at the community center and on all sides of it, involved with also organized crimes at Harvard Hospital and with the houses and businesses next to it. And these are people that are intelligent, supposed to have the right to use the organized crime, but they use it where they don't have the right to it. As collusions with the judges and prosecutors forging and switching names, as collusions with this with this detective Samuda, who's a delusions rock, criminally foreign influence, a little creep on women and little girls, intercities, and with the name switching and forging KKK theme, black theme, Latino theme, wire crimes, rolls, clicks, intercities with the Weathersfield police. They have a Joshua Schumack and his mother involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, planting fake evidences, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me, and with people with intelligence communities, intercities, whole bunch of people with Vernon involved with it, with the fake organized crime, fake undercover, with the interstates, with Violet family, and the people with the name Monacchio involved with Rhode Island, and their narratives about a mafia, and they have other guy with the name Shay. That's one of the names involved with this judge, with his officer Jerry Miller's confessions, and the other ones with the little kids through time tied to child abusers, leaders of kids, like the ones with the name Kerr, planting evidences with judges and prosecutors and people from other countries, and their educators, putting other kids that aren't even the same classes and then fake ties, fake natures of ties to them, sequence shifting, pretend they knew them on a campus because they have roles with people putting fake predicate acts at corners of streets and with exceptions too. Increasingly, it's increasingly goes back to people involved with Valley Crest Street and Weathersfield, who also have roles with predicate acts at campuses I went before that, who have roles with predicate acts there with them. And these are people involved with the Harvard Hospital has an Institute of Living, increasingly involved with a whole bunch of foreign and domestic mental health care doctors who are involved with drugs and medicines, crimes of kids, in the form of them themselves, also with legal crimes, with judges and prosecutors and their family members, with the schools, also with mayors and ties to them, putting fake things in databases and speaking them next to it, behavior racketeering relevant relative to it. How they get away with it, this method perfected, forcing teachers to respond to things or get in trouble, and forcing them also at the same time to not respond to things or get in trouble. The same way with the police, the same way with the courts. This breaching method showed them how to respond to that off the records. It's a communication racketeering method. This has the differences of that certain type of victim that people have to respond to, borders and gangs. Has the gangs as a certain type of victim that wouldn't have been had campuses A through Z at countries A through Z not been sickly distinctly, but also non-distinctly, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, communicating other for America's founders and other for their founders than they actually communicated. You guys cannot appreciate accurately the what our founders communicated for themselves, let alone for president / chief. You can't even understand our presidents if you can't appreciate that breaching method that nature shows you to appreciate was against the human species body, as it was against Native Americans before the formal positions known or claimed known, because it was before that too. You think, oh, they're going to put exactly when they really are on paper. Then look what they were involved with. So entrenched with slavery, northern colonies, southern colonies, that our founders couldn't even counter it. They had to counter extort and force founders to be counter extorted and to help them within more than 13 states. Within more than 13 colonies, they had to force key people to begin the first states. And everyone was in trouble every kind of way. If they helped, they didn't. There's chaos. Slavery had been sustained against everyone, sickly distinctly. That's what's recorded. The nature of the debate that denies it and gets away with it is reliant upon criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought, fact, human nature, quality aspects of nature of the sciences, and or the difference of that's what those fake predicate acts are put in databases, and there is acting tied to it. There are people on all sides of my campus that will tell you it's also recorded other ways. The only way I know them, they try to walk by me and they take other people take a picture and pretend I know them. Where and how they have roles planting on all sides of criminal and civil cases and the interbranch and the intelligence tied to them, the difference of that, their collusions, putting the same things in with the news at the same time. Prepare each mind. So intercities and intra-cities, a whole bunch of people tied to the names Khalil, Demoro, and Dylan. Increasingly, Dylan non-verbally confirms his roles with their educators too, with predicate acts. Stephen Stocko was involved with wire crimes with them, with people from the Britain Central Connecticut State University, and his educators also involved with seating him with them, and a whole bunch of people with Mark Violet, two Caron brothers, and Danielle Perron. Reported they all had was her boyfriend for them when she was right there, though, and Justin Klavinskis. But that's also because they have plain he said, she said, they want to refer to it that way. They have judges and prosecutors involved with them too, and mayors. A former mayor, Goals, increasingly involved with them with federal evidences crimes. Also with a Joe Aiello, involved with them with child offenders, leaders of kids, first forced years apart. Involved with people also with the fire department next to Trinity College. And there's a guy asked me for a match there. Is recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirms involved with people with FBI Director Robert Luskin, even if he knows it or not, and his co-defendants, various natures of other countries involved with them and their family members, involved planting evidences at each of the campuses I went to, and next to them. So there's a Joshua Stryker involved. They're hiding things from a Berger Sweeney, Miss Berger Sweeney. And they're making it look like I had words at all with a Joshua Stryker or with the FBI director or the Wethersfield police when I was a kid as an adult. They pretended others through the news media too. It's their roles with this, with prosecutors retired and standing too, with judges retired and standing, and with some raising them. There are proofs that there are people, in other words, that's why. In other words, interstates has something to do with the roles with Florida, with Texas, with this too. See, there are both presidents have people that will help them, and they want to go speak about free speech. In the press wants to pretend they have free speech. They're forcing natures of debate about things they can't get away with debating without self-valuing, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought, fact, human nature, quality aspects of nature, and means to get away with it as collusions. In other words, you guys are you guys are supposed to follow mandated law regarding WFSB, attaching me to fake conversations with them about the World Trade Center attack. And others too, even with doctors, they pretend to be fake conversations with them. And with their exceptions with that, they use those criminally foreign influence too. And the doctors, they fake transcripts, conversations with me about that, and forge doctors' names and put me in fake conversations with them about that too. They also have roles with federal criminals in those cases. WFSB has roles with federal crimes with NLRB, with an NLRB case with other natures of crimes with Local 230, with former director of the FBI Robert Luskin, and with a John LeConte involved with them with people on their street in Elm Street in Rocky Hill, and his family members. Like a John LeConte has a Dawn LeConte involved planting evidence, his fake ties to me. Take a picture. I was near her for 1 second. She's involved with a whole bunch of people. That time that were tied to my neighbors, time where I was going to be, and they pretend they knew me. And like with the Joshua Julian involved with this, involved with the people with the name Perron and Kerr. I never saw him in real life, Joshua Julian, Perron Perone and Violet. But Perone and Violet and a whole bunch of other people had been planting evidences next to parks. Fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. In that corners of streets, like the corner of Saustine Highway and Two Route Highway, and the side entrance to it is increasingly involved with people with the World Trade Center attack and the foreign and domestic military increasingly being demonstrated and involved also with silences and Weathersfield's roles with this. Increasingly, Weathersfield has roles with military, foreign, and domestic at Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, with the ones that put me in fake conversations with them as the police department. Some of them as a kid and then as an adult, too. As the ones intercities involved next to the news spots, planting evidences, too, with these ones named Domain and Mendez and Mulcahy. And next to Fox Connecticut News, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and Jewish themed and cultural themed, and also with the ones that are black KKK. Mark Violet has KKK themed, black themed, with UConn involved with predicate acts with him on Zion Street next to Trinity College, with Ray Cololo, my neighbor, and his father Ray Cololo, with another union spot too, and spots next to it where they have roles with federal evidences crimes with various police departments forging and switching names and refusing to get on paper with courts that do the same, and with their roles with the name in the World Trade Center attack in Manhattan, and their roles with his roommate from a Newington locations, and his roles reportedly with and demonstrably with names with Glastonbury locations. Increasingly, people with the Glastonbury intelligence tied to Central Connecticut State University, and people with a Mike Pandolf, and people with the name Cololo and tied to them are involved with predicate acts, with fax methods, also with news that are forced self-value, or they hurt that person, as roles with a whole bunch of different countries, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and terrorists. See them with the words like extremism as a premise. In other words, their delusions raw, criminally foreign influence. Get me off the fake conversations with WFSB. Watch when you see how they've been using the religious locations and the names next to it, like a Robert Rodriguez, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved planting evidences with his family and other families on all sides of a church, or three sides of a church on Route 3. And then there are people on Valley Crest Street there, off there, and Morgan Circle. A whole bunch of people tied to a Kerr family are involved with a whole bunch of different countries, and all along Route 3. It has something to do with their roles increasingly needed to hide line progressions from the roles of predicate acts in the past. So I don't even know what schools they went to, or what their teachers' names were. In other words, increasingly people that put fake things to deans of schools I went, and they have real influences over their family members too. Increasingly people tied to a football coach who had also been a in other words, also Coach Shea involved that people with the name Kerr and DeMora and people with a Rocky Hill Athletic Center told lies to him about me. I never, in other words, and these are people that the leaders of the campuses are further increasingly. Whiting Forensics has state police families involved with them on Elm Street in Rocky Hill, and its conjunctions are people that have been attaching me and everyone around me since I was a kid, intercity, to fake ties, fake natures of ties to themselves, like WFSB attached me to fake conversations with themselves and with others about the World Trade Center attack. And doctors know. When I caught them also with doctors and their kids, collusions with the principal child defender, and more people involved with it. And this is increasingly from off-ball campuses, keeping on and off campuses hyper additional collusions and fake motivations to screen not just then, but in the future, because that also calls that up. Increasingly, they'll tell you all exceptions are come with demonstrations of the same thing. Debbie Gold will tell you, I don't know her at all, and she pretended other into a database and hid what came first with my teacher. And she did that, and then she did things when I was in sixth grade too. She was doing things in the background Also, Chet Casper is increasingly having been involved also with adults affecting confessions to me. He's involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders of me, putting federal evidences, crimes, and databases with people from involved with Washington, D.C., too. All kinds of medical corruption. People at Hartford Hospital also brought the name Casper up. I believe they have brought the name Jack Casper up, too, who's also involved with people at the Britain Superior Court with various natures of predicate acts, identity theft, fraud, slanders, and digital crimes, too. Also at the campuses and with the departments individually grouped together, hiding behind how they have all these different countries here. They have inspectors involved too. There's an inspector, Mike. It might be just a fire department inspector, but they also have inspectors right through administrations. They have been hiding this from presidents. They have been using investigators remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. Also, more people that had roles with the child abuser leader, the kid, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed with the media too at the same time in the interbranch. They have a Lance Cuddy involved, and they have the mother and the family members and now the if she's married, they have that too with Michelle Sandquist, I believe is her name. In other words, she's involved with some predicate acts and various natures of organized crime and federal criminals before they got caught, and increasingly, and people at the corrections offices and next to it involved with also at Alina's Pizza on Park Street, involved with people from other countries and overt criminal enterprises with grammar school kids. Increasingly, people tied to a former Mayor Gold and a Debbie Gold and a Lee Gold. I never even was around the Lee Gold, and I was never around the Debbie Gold. They made two big quick exceptions, one positive and one negative. This is also has something to do with their roles with the Earth Day, the first time they or Earth Day, and right before it, they were concentrated putting fake things, fake timing, fake motivations in databases. Sequence shifts too. Increasingly, people tied to these people are involved with sequence shifts, inter-cities and intra-cities and interstates involved. They have roles with Florida, Washington, D.C., the World Trade Center, and with the World Trade Center attack right in that context, right before it, and since. The same ones who long term and short term before it plotted inter and intra city with that. And with the victims involved, had been involved, forced, tricked, hurt, persuaded to act things tied to fake conversations with me. And people told them to make them act things to make that look real. These are increasingly people with the Connecticut judicial branch offices and corrections offices with all kinds of natures of organized crime and predicate acts methods way worse than they put little kids in jail for. All kinds of drugs and medicines, crimes and delusions that are relative at the same time. So I hope someone could get me through to Judge Napolitano because they missed what came first that I said. And they've been changing and faking what's digitally typed on his page. It's clearer than day recorded. We're going to show how the differences of when people say, "Oh, we have to have faith in the FBI." They know, in other words, they're not honest about the answers to that, and they're measuring for the breaching method that exploits that too. FBI has all kinds of wire crime acts and methods, roles, and falsified police reports and identity thefts and frauds in Wethersfield Police Department through people's lifetimes. You're going to get and putting kids to fake ties to doctors. You're going to get them on paper with the FBI. You're going to get the FBI on paper with the Wethersfield Police now too, and the other criminal enterprises involved. Whole bunch of people tied to a Fred Grisette with Hartford Hospital and the businesses and houses at the same time involved simultaneously with this Leahy family. You're going to get on paper and you're going to get me response because they send it to the mail, but not to me. I can't get a response from one person. Judge Napolitano, you're going to get me a response from a doctor. Now, please, get me a response from them. I want it now from the judges, too, in the court switching names and what they're doing with their kids. What they're doing with my name in the mouth. Pretend I had conversations with them. Get me off the fake transcripts with them, too, and get them on paper. I want a response, Judge Napolitano. They got your Facebook page involved. They got the news involved, the Connecticut location. I shouldn't have to beg you here. I should be calmly. Get me on paper. When you have there are people involved with them with violence, poison, bug spray, smoke, and the same ones attached me to fake and change communications with everyone around me since I was a kid. Whole bunch of people from other areas tied to them, and the campuses associated with them, and the spots next to them, and the people associated with that. Play games with me, get on paper, and change you fake what I said. And your delusions raw. So those people all over there calling people a delusion. I'm saying it for real. You gotta have discernible delusions. Black pupils. We're gonna use this to delineate your delusions from your criminally formidable fact, tribute, nature, quality aspects in nature. All those involved with these police reports and no writing yet. And make sure you get them on paper with the police chief Cintron and the rest associated with him. Because I want his daughter in now too. Yeah, because he brought her in with the Mazzucatos and with that Maano family too, with the DeMoros with them, with the wire crime acts and methods, and with his roles with people with Sandy Hook, with the Cintron and the O'Brien confessions, and their roles with the what's that place, the Omni place, and those places that the apartment next to it, and with this guy with the Neville family all along Route 3. What are they doing on Facebook too? Watch, get this. Facebook is being used for all kinds of natures of organized crime with the FBI and other police forms and the courts involved with it, and the differences between the platforms too. Get them on paper, okay? Get them on paper. Then they're blacking people out so they're planting evidences. They have rules of all sides of criminal and civil cases in the World Trade Center context. Facebook, do what's right. Get on paper right now with the Wethersfield Police and the Bridge Superior Court. And I want a response to the principal child abusers campus. There's more names he brought up too, like a Mike Levine. More people on Route 3. They brought up a Christine. They didn't give you the last name at Whiting Forensics as the ones further with a Phil Cavallo, further involved with violence on the street. And the people I don't know the names of, but I know recognize them to extent some of them. And more people with this Mike Panadol, foreign and domestic, and with the differences rackets. These are not legitimate roles with them, and with intercities, and what they're doing with Town Line Drive, with the Latino theme guy who knows my name, involved with the people with I heard he's got I never even saw his wife. I don't know her name. I believe she has something to do with the corrections offices too. We're going to see what's inside that corrections offices at the corner at the side of Wethersfield and Franklin Avenue in Hartford. We'll see the difference of it there. They have stories with the news, with the Wethersfield police. They might be trying to make it look like they're undercover police or whatever. These people are sick with the town lines. Get them on paper, one name in sequence. What are they doing with that parking lot next to where the Wethersfield police is now? What are they doing? Wait, you're wasting my time. Get on paper. That's don't make me beg any longer. You get on paper now. And I want a response to the campus and the rest of the confessions and recorded predicate acts associated with a Michael Emmett. And we're going to do this personally. I want the teachers and I want the parents involved too, and the ones that told fake lies to my family with me. You don't leave that out where they tell lies too. In other words, if they know because they play their games, people don't owe you nothing. You get on paper. You're gonna get these people on paper. There's more people with security families with the school too, and more medical offenders with the kids. I'll show you what to do, how to think. Get them on paper real fast. Make sure you get me a response.